Business service professionals play a vital role in our economic ecosystem. Professionals like lawyers, accountants, and financial planners are typically designated individuals that go through years of education, training, and mentorship before they are approved by the respective regulators to practice on their own. Now, with the changing landscape of technology and the business landscape itself, professionals need to adapt and make a mindset shift when it comes to operations for client services and growth. Timothy Wingate Jr. is the founder and president of G+F Business and Financial Consulting, LLC, an advisory and accounting firm based in West Palm Beach, Florida. In December of 2022, I met Tim at an Intuit conference, and I found his story to be fascinating. We had a great discussion and realized that our thinking about digital content and the growth of professional services was very much the same.
My answer to that may sound off the wall, but the answer is it's whatever you want it to be. And people are like, well, it's whatever I want it to be. Yeah, because you have a vision for your company that's different from every other accounting firm.
Tim grew up in West Palm Beach, Florida, and grew up in a very close-knit family. His father was a contractor in the construction industry, and you'll hear shortly about how that has helped him find a niche in the accounting world. Tim had no shortage of entrepreneurial mentors, as both his father and grandmother operated their own companies and organizations. But Tim didn't always think that he was going to be an accountant. In fact, his early career aspirations were to become a doctor.
So that was a huge turn in my life, because I was basically on my way to studying medicine and just really had a focus on that from middle school all the way until my sophomore year of college. So my first 2 years of college, I studied biomedical sciences and really didn't have accounting on the radar at all. And had an opportunity to do a short internship with Dr. Cantor, who was an orthopedic surgeon, and got a chance to watch a couple of surgeries and talk with him and just kind of learn about his life in the field, and really realized that he had no time for family. And family was a big part of why I would think anybody would make more money and do more things that take more of your time, right? But I just couldn't imagine a life where I came home, I left early in the morning and came home very late at night and just couldn't see my kids unless I took a vacation. I just couldn't imagine it. So that was a thing that flipped me upside down, decided I wanted to change my major. And then, believe it or not, I actually took a whole semester of theater. So
kind of maybe acting, maybe film industry.
Yeah. So that was interesting. And I realized, like, man, I'm not cut out to be in college taking theater classes, because these guys are kind of weird. So, all these, different exercises that they have you do with your tongue and your voice and all that stuff. It just like I'm paying $5,000 a credit for this. Like, what is going on?
Wow. Yeah.
So really had a hard talk with my father and really just reflected back on what I was good at. And math and science was still a very popular thing and something that I was good at. So I decided to say, hey, let's try majoring in finance and see what goes with that. And that's kind of what I did. I majored in finance, graduated, and got my first job working at the corporate center of Bank of America. And life was great at Bank of America. Bank of America had a great culture. I loved working there, really enjoyed my time there, but I only worked there for 1 year, because shortly after I got hired there, my grandmother was, reaching out and saying, hey, I really need someone to come and help me with the company. And I was away in Tampa, which is about 3 hours away from West Palm Beach. So I didn't really have any sights on coming back home to make a career or a life change. But really just had that pulled on my heart, prayed about it, and said, hey, grandma needs me, so I'm gonna come down there and help her out. And that's kind of what I did. And who knew that I was going to the school of the hard knocks?
That's what
Man,
working with family does, right?
yeah, man, that was tough, tough.
Yeah. What kind of business did your grandmother run?
Yeah. It was a nonprofit organization, and it been around for about 30 plus years at the time. I forgot, it was like 38 years or something. They had 3 locations, about a $1.4 million budget. At the time, it was 37 employees, so it was busy. It was
Wow.
a it was a it
Yeah,
was it
yeah.
was a very big machine, that I had to come and operate. And I was only, 22, 23 years old, something like that. So it was interesting coming home and coming into this family dynamic, and everybody there was able to be my aunt or my grandmother or mother, and to try to change the culture and those type of things. So, but I call it the school of the hard knocks because that's why I've learned most of my, all my business acumen I kind of gotten from that experience, because I went through like 9 lawsuits.
Oh,
I
wow.
had to, we had to, yeah, had to close down a location. I had to, lay off employees, and, you know, reach out to an attorney and off, come up with a severance package. So I did all
Mm.
that type of experience, and just went through all the different types of cases, workers comp claims, slip and falls. I mean, just everything you can think of. And it was just a tough thing. And then, uh, we end up closing down the organization, in its entirety. And that's when I said, you know what? I want to start something that I where I can be of service to the everyday entrepreneur, and help them avoid these pitfalls, because a lot of this stuff was just happening out of business ignorance. You know what I mean? Like, just not
Mm.
knowing, not being taught, not being mentored, not having anyone to guide you, that type of thing. And the law doesn't care about ignorance.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it was it was
So the
challenging. So I
failure, yeah, the failures taught you a lot then. Like
taught me a
taught you a
whole
lot.
lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, taught me a whole lot. So I started. That's how G plus F started. It was to really just come out and help entrepreneurs who had small companies, but just needed that mentorship and needed some help, and to getting things together, and so they can grow the company.
And so
So
what
I don't know.
does
That
G
was the short
plus
version.
No, that was great. And, I have a lot of questions for you. And I
Yeah.
think one of the things, so let's just continue on that path a little bit. So, in all of what you just told me, it's
Hmm.
interesting because accounting, you never quite said that word.
Right.
But G plus F is an accounting firm, though, right?
It is. It is.
So explain a little bit to me then, how did you bridge the gap with accounting and then helping out entrepreneurs?
Accounting was a skill that was acquired, and I acquired that skill when I was running a nonprofit, and I sharpened that skill over the years.
Mm.
And it was something that was needed to help me understand what was happening to this massive machine that I was managing, because they didn't have an accounting system. So we had to
Right.
establish one, because I had to have a baseline. I had to know where we were, what we were doing, that type of thing. Because the way they were running their business was basically just opening the mail and say, okay, oh, we had a bill, we need to pay it. Oh, it was like a lot of O moments, and I said, nah, we gotta get it. We gotta get something better than that. And so that's kind of how accounting came into the picture for me.
When I was doing some research before our conversation here, and we talked about this. So you and I met at the QuickBooks Connect conference in Las Vegas in 2022. And one of the things
Yeah,
that you initially told me was there was a big focus on construction. So I think I see now, because you had mentioned your father was involved in the construction industry. So is that
yeah.
the focus of G plus F? Is that kind of your firm niche and target?
That is. Yeah, we've finally niched down to the construction industry, mainly because it was tough really bringing value to every industry that was out there. You got e-commerce, you got manufacturing, you got nonprofit, you got all these different industries. And I'm the type of guy who dives into a subject and really want to kind of master that subject. And
Right.
so I really I found it challenging to master all these different industries and really give my clients like a great service, because I was spread out. I was spread so thin. I didn't understand everything about their industry. And so I
Right.
said, man, you know what? When I was studying or looking to study, medicine, I was focused. I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. Like, it was very specific. You know what I mean? It was because I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
know all things anatomy and physiology, and just really master that and focus that. So I took that same approach and said, what in the accounting space should I try to master?
Yeah.
And the low hanging fruit for me was construction, because
Mm.
what better mentor than my father, and especially knowing all the failures he has come across, and
Yeah.
and just all the things. And the reason why I did, and some people say, why didn't you choose nonprofit? Because working in nonprofit, you realize very quickly that it's hard for them to raise money. And
Right.
again, I had a certain vision for my life and my company. Having nonprofit clients would have hindered that vision,
Right.
and I wouldn't have obtained everything that I set out to obtain. So the low hanging fruit for me was construction.
And it's interesting because talking to a lot of entrepreneurs, this is the one thing that they always worry about, right? Like niching down.
Mhm.
Am I leaving a lot on the table? And study after study after study shows that niching down is often one of the key formulas for success for a lot of businesses out there. Did you
Yeah.
have some of that reservation for you before you decided to niche down, or were you always knew like this is going to work? Like, because again, like a lot of entrepreneurs, they worry, right? Oh, but like,
Yeah.
what if this client in medicine, like this doctor needs my services, and this restaurant needs
Yeah.
my service, this car shop, and I don't want to let them down, and sometimes to
Yeah.
your point, like niching down. So did you ever have some of those, tendencies like, oh, maybe I shouldn't niche down?
Heck yeah, man. It was scary. you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it was like I had all those, everything that you mentioned pass through my mind. If I don't serve, everybody walking through the door, would I have enough money to eat? Would
Mm-hmm.
I be able to
Mm-hmm.
take care of my bills? Would I be able to, bring enough in? It just all these things, that these thoughts of doubt come through your
Yeah.
mind. And so it was a scary thing, but you got to be a risk taker if it's calculated. And for me,
Right.
I'd done enough research, and I felt like I had a great door open for me into the industry through my father.
Mm-hmm.
So that
Mm-hmm.
was another thing. So it was like, okay, he can introduce me to his colleagues, and it was just, I think you have to really think about picking the right niche, and really going all in. But once you pick it, you have to go all in, and
Yeah.
you have to go all in knowing that it feels risky and it feels uneasy. And
Yeah.
accountants don't, we never like to feel uneasy. We want to be
You
right all
want
the time.
certainty. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You want that tax act laid out so yeah, you want those
Exactly.
parameters. Yeah. How long have you run G plus F?
It will be 7 years come May 1st. 7 years.
Wow. Wow. And
Yeah.
sorry, it's G plus F, right? Is that how you say it?
It's
Or
it's G plus F. Yep.
nice, nice. And what does that stand for?
God plus family.
Wow. I
Yeah.
love that. That's amazing.
Yeah. A lot of
Well,
people don't
and
know, but those who ask.
yeah, well, just listening to you talk about your background and how you came up, like that makes so much sense, right?
Right.
You're living and breathing it.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So 7 years. Any big challenges that you face so far in this entrepreneurial journey?
I mean, a lot of challenges I faced. In the beginning, it was, when it was unpopular, I was virtual. I had made the
Mm,
decision to be virtual. At first, it started off as mobile, and I realized that me putting gas in my car and driving to everybody's office wasn't ideal. So then I switched over to a virtual platform, and people thought I was crazy. And this was
mm,
like COVID wasn't even thought about.
right.
so
Yeah.
so that was a challenge. It was a challenge switching from hourly to fixed pricing. From what you see, I never had the training of or the mentorship from another accounting firm or another accountant. I had enough sense to do research and say, hey, oh, these people charge by the hour. Okay, I need to charge by the hour. And that's kind of how that came about. But then I quickly learned that I'm not getting the value with the hourly rate that I'm giving, whatever I'm exchanging my time for this money. And I quickly realized, I say, hold up, accounting is a specialty. Just like when you hear doctors, when you hear lawyers, the next person you hear is a accountant. And
Yeah.
so why aren't we, having the cost for our services right up there with the doctors and lawyers? We have to
Hmm.
put so much time in the study, and then our laws change all the time.
Right.
So we
Yeah.
even have to keep up with, all the different tax law changes, accounting law changes, all these different
Yep.
things, but we're not getting paid for it. So I said, man, I'm gonna be different, and for me,
Mm,
not having the traditional accounting background and going through that route, I didn't have any problem with telling people, hey, this is what I charge, and yeah, I know it's different than everybody else, but this is the value that you're gonna get from it.
let's go back to the hourly to fix because that's a huge, I guess, barrier and roadblock for a lot of professionals. And
Hmm.
previous to starting Convos, I was working in a global law firm, and I had brought up this question about like, can we get away from the hourly? Because we would be one of the first major law firms to do that. And there is such a, just because for, hundreds of years, that's how it was done. I got paid by the
Right.
hour. But the problem with that is, to make more money, you either have to work more hours or you have to raise your rates. And to your point
Right.
about the value, you're now, clients hate, oh, if I call you, I'm going to be docked zero point 0.6 of an hour or a minute or whatever it is,
Yeah.
going rate. So talk to me about that switch. So you said it was a challenge. So what were some of the things that you had to overcome to get your mindset into fixed pricing versus hourly?
Man, I'll say one thing that really helped me. There was a young guy at the time by the name of Andrew Argue, and
Okay.
he was actually putting on this like seminar or course, and I remember it was like $6,000. It may be higher now, or even if he still does it. But I went to that seminar for a weekend, and the one thing that I got out of that weekend was the confidence to come up with fixed pricing, which we now call value pricing, and just stick with it. And a lot of people say, "Hey, what is it? What's the formula? How do you come up with it?" My answer to that may sound off the wall, but the answer is it's whatever you want it to be.
Mm,
And people are like, well, it's whatever I want it to be. Yeah, because you have a vision for your company that's different from every other accounting firm. Some accounting firms want to be, $500,000 in size. Some accounting firms want to be $5 million in size. Some accounting firms want to be $50 million in size. Well, I can tell you one thing: if you want to be a $50 million accounting firm, you can't be charging rates of $500 a month. You're gonna drive yourself insane,
yeah. Math doesn't
and
work.
you're gonna yeah, the math just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So you first have to start with the vision for your company and say, okay, where do I see myself and my company, and where do we want to be? And that's where my prices need to be. My prices need to help me reach that vision. And so
Right.
that's why I always say it's whatever you want it to be. because your vision is whatever you want it to be. And so
Right.
you have to address that first. And so once I found that out, it was easy for me to say no to clients who said, "Oh, can you lower that? Can it be different? Can it be that?" Because I knew what my number needed to be to help me get to where I was going.
Right.
And when you know that clearly, it's easy for you to say no because you know it's not going to help you get to the next stage.
I think that's a huge point, starting with the vision and then getting that clarity so you know where you want to go. And I love the idea that, you are able to filter out clients, because I think a lot of professionals, they feel they got to take on the work, right? Because I got to help these people and I just got to get my hours in. And so you end up taking on clients that are not ideal for you. And it's more of a headache, right? You always complain about those ones that you don't want.
Yeah. And then another thing too, I was really trying to build a firm where we could provide the best level of customer service. It's hard to provide good customer service when there's this dollar that's in the way. The client won't call you because of the dollar, and then you don't want to give more information because of the dollar.
Right.
So like let's kind of change that and move that out of the way by coming up with a value pricing, which includes all of this. And no, you're not going to get it right the first time, but you're going to perfect it year after year, month after month. And it's just going to get better over time. And you'll start to realize, oh, okay, yeah, I don't want to add that in the package. You know what I mean? I want to take that out. Or I want to modify it. Or now I want to kind of separate this out and line item these things a little different. You'll come up with those things. I've used a great proposal software called Go Proposal, and it has changed my life, because when I give pricing, it's not me giving the price, it's the software giving the price. But I've done all the work to put all the formulas in, test them out, a small client, a medium client, a very large client, these type of things, and this service minus this, just testing those things out. And so now I feel very good about the formulas in there. So when the client just going through saying, "Hey, I want that, want this, want that," yeah, we check it all off, and then it spits out a price, and they just look at it, and then I look at it, go back and forth looking at it.
That's okay. So that's a good transition, because my next question. So we've talked a lot about your vision, how you've put this all together, where you're at. Now I want to talk a bit about, the operation side. Now you're running your firm. What are things that you do? So that software, I think, is a good starting point. But like, what other things do you do to, maximize the ongoing operations of your firm and keep it going?
Yeah, a big part of it, shout out to Ian, co-founder of Carbon. Man, changed my life. Carbon is my office. I don't have a physical office. I'm at my home right now. My whole team, works from home, but we have a virtual office space, and that is called Carbon. And that is our project management system. That is the thing that keeps us level-headed, keeps stuff out of my head, out of everybody else's head, and just clear communication between me and my teammates and me and the client. If you're running an accounting firm right now without a project management system, you are losing your mind. I know you are. Yeah. You are going crazy because you're going through email chains, trying to figure out what was said here, trying to find that document. It's just you're losing your mind. And I quickly found that out. I think I found Carbon, maybe that was year two of my business, because I said, man, this is crazy for me to try to keep up with everybody by email, because I literally have email folders for every client that I was serving, because when they send an email, I would send it to that folder, trying to organize my life. And Carbon just changed the game. So project management system for sure, gotta have it. Gotta have it.
The software's so advanced, and it to your point about communicating with your team too, right? Like that's a huge part. And, if you just do it by email, how are you tracking all of that, right?
Yeah.
Spreadsheets, that's another popular one, right? Like you've got
Oh,
tabs and
man.
tabs and tabs and tabs trying to keep track.
Yeah.
So on that, let's talk a bit about the future of accounting. You're knee deep in it right now. And what do you see, especially with AI and everything that's come to light this year?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the future of the profession?
Man, my thoughts are very positive. I should say you hear a lot of negative thoughts circling about in the accounting industry because people are afraid of AI, but we really need to embrace AI. Because just imagine, we're not back in the 1800s or the 1900s, working through T-charts and ledgers and going back and forth and doing that. Like, come on, I can tell you right now, that was accounting, I wouldn't be here. Yeah.
Yeah.
If we were still using physical books, I wouldn't be here. So
Yeah.
we have to appreciate the technology that comes into our lives to help us and to do things faster, better, because this was the best thing that was said for me. I forget who put it this way, but bookkeepers are here to make sure that the transactions are getting into the system accurately, on time, that type of thing. But accountants, we are here to apply the law or best practices to those transactions. So the bookkeeper knows that it's an expense, but we know if it's a deductible or non-deductible expense, and we apply the law in order to make that happen. So what is that doing? That is putting us in the seat of an advisor, someone who you talk and communicate with and strategize with. And that's the seat that I want to be in ultimately. And I think that's the seat where most accountants need to start to shift their practice to. Like, if you're still entering transactions, are you really practicing accounting?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Your week should be consumed with meetings, strategic meetings with your clients, going over their reports, going over things that's in their operations and how all that stuff is tying back to what we see in the reports. That's where, the bulk of your time should be spent. That's where I see accounting moving towards, because AI is going to take a lot of the entering data into the system.
The manual labor part.
I don't think it's going to remove bookkeepers' role completely, but you probably need less bookkeepers, and they'll be more so managing the AI or managing that system. And so you'll just need less manpower and just more a person who just thinks on a higher level. So that's where I think we're going.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And I think, professionals who don't embrace the new technologies, as is every generation, right? The ones who don't embrace it, they fall behind. And I think newer things are going to come out of this. There's probably going to be new services that accountants can provide more value, right? And I think that's why they need to embrace it. So that's Timothy Wingate Jr., founder and president of G+F Business and Financial Consulting LLC in West Palm Beach, Florida. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode. Don't forget to like and follow on whatever podcast platform you are listening to. And if you're watching this episode on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe to this Professional Life channel. Take care. We will catch you in the next episode.